Welcome to the official Broward-MIAMI podcast, the voice for Broward County real estate. Now, this episode is a conversation with Florida Senator and Miami Realtors Chief of Strategic Initiatives, Ana Maria Rodriguez. 2025 Broward-MIAMI President Larry Singh, Miami Director of Broward Outreach Jalina Pittman, and Ana Maria talk about how Miami's award-winning advocacy team works with elected lawmakers to shape policy to help homeowners and business owners. They talk about how the state legislature helped first-time homebuyers once again earlier this year with more funding for the Hometown Heroes program. The trio also talk about one of the hottest topics right now in the state, property taxes. Ana Maria doesn't believe property taxes will be eliminated in Florida because this is how we keep our cities running, but she sees other possibilities such as increasing the homestead threshold. Don't miss this episode. Whether you're driving, walking, running, at the gym, cooking, whatever you're up to, thank you for the time, and thank you for listening to the official Broward-MIAMI podcast.
Welcome back to your Broward-MIAMI Insider. I'm your host, Jalina Pittman, alongside Larry Singh, our co-host, and your 2025 Broward-MIAMI President. We are here again with the conversations that truly give you insight about the real estate market, and today's no different. We are diving into how the upcoming election season is impacting real estate. Larry, would you like to introduce our guest today?
Yeah, it would be my honor. And we are honored to have a member of our Florida State Senate representing District 40 since 2020. Born and raised in South Florida, so a native to what we do here. Prior to serving in state Senate service, she served in the House of Representatives. Please welcome Senator Ana Maria Rodriguez.
Thank you so much for having me today. I love being here.
We're happy that you could join us today. So for those listeners who may not know your full story, we know you've been with Miami Association of Realtors, but definitely let us know how you got involved in politics and connecting that with real estate.
So in my professional capacity, I work for the Miami Association of Realtors as the Chief of Strategic Initiatives. I've been with the association now for over 10 years, and it's gone by in the blink of an eye. As they say, time flies when you're having fun, so it's been a great journey here at Miami Realtors. And I started in politics back in, it was in 2010 when I was recruited to run for city council in the city of Doral by my dear friend, J.C. Bermudez, who is currently serving as a county commissioner. And at that time, he was the mayor of the city, and there was an open seat on the city council. And so I had no interest whatsoever in running for office. It wasn't one of those things like, I had to do in my lifetime. No. I always enjoyed helping people behind the scenes. I used to walk door to door for candidates. And I really like helping good people get elected, right? Because those are the people who are, influencing our policies and so many other things. So anyway, long story short, I ran. I won, and so that was in 2010. I got reelected in 2014 to the city council without opposition, which is very rare, but thankfully it happened. And I had just had my two boys back to back, so I had two infants, so that walking would have been difficult. And then my last year on the city council, I was the vice mayor and also running for state representative. There was a vacancy. I think politics, a lot of it has to do with timing. And then I served in the House for only 2 years because during my first term, I was recruited to run for the Senate. So I got to the Senate in 2020. I've been there for 5 years. And that's as fast as I could say all of it. So,
It's so funny. So what I took out of that is your friend JC, who used to be the mayor, correct? Mm-hmm. He's the one we have to thank for this.
He was the catalyst that got me to do this.
Because it's amazing. And I've heard this story so many times that when good people are in office, it's usually because they don't want to be in office.
At all. I was not seeking it. It wasn't something I wanted to do. I had a career at the time. I was working for Baptist Health. I had been working there for almost 6 years, and things were fine. Things were good. I was happy, like I said, helping people behind the scenes, not necessarily being the person in the forefront, the person whose name was on the ballot. And that's a big risk to take, putting your name out there and, the risk of losing, and then you think, well, why did I lose? Why wasn't I the one that they wanted? What was wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with anyone that doesn't win. Right. I think anyone who runs for office truly has tremendous courage, because the fact that you even want to serve your community in that capacity and you risk putting your name out there, and whether you win or not win, I think is a sign of courage.
You and I have had this conversation many times, and I think that it's a perspective thing, right? Because even just putting your name out there, win or lose, I think that just the name recognition that you get from it is worth even going through the process if you think that you can make a difference to the community. And I'm going to tell you, I followed your career for the past several years, right? And I will say that it's great to have somebody that invokes so much change, that impacts so many with the right feelings behind it. If that makes sense, right? Meaning that, we need more people like that because you do it for the right reasons. Right. And the story you just told, it really outlines the fact that, that wasn't even something you were thinking about.
Right. She was already doing the work in the grassroots.
Correct.
You were recruited. I love that you mentioned that you were recruited because you're already doing the work. Yeah. Sometimes people think, oh, this person wants to get to office and then make a difference. No, I'm already making a difference, and now I'm going to office to expand how many people I impact.
Exactly. And actually, I have been serving on a city board called Parks and Police for Kids for numerous years without, again, really seeking anything else. It was just there to help and give back to my community. And I think one of the tie-ins to the realtor family is that realtors, and now with what I'm doing as the Chief of Strategic Initiatives, is tying all those dots together as far as realtors giving back to their communities through our NAR grant program. And so much of that money that we get from NAR creates placemaking in communities where they have areas that are underutilized or underserved. And so I'm excited to make sure that the realtors get the proper recognition in our local governments, right? Because, sometimes people perceive realtors, oh, you're just basically buying and selling properties, which, yes, I mean, you have to pay your bills, right? So that's how you have to buy and sell properties. Right. But there's so much more to it, right? Because you want your communities to be thriving, right? You want areas that perhaps aren't doing so well to just, invest in them and make sure that you take them to the next level and that they have elements that people would want to live there and have their lives there. So.
On this podcast, Jalina, you and I, we've talked to so many people so far, and the one constant that we kind of always go back to is our realtor community really does help shape our social community.
Absolutely.
And in where we live. When you look at how things are presented and how much of an importance the realtors actually make in the decision-making process. Because you got to remember that, as an active broker, right, I'm in the weeds every single day. I look at hundreds and hundreds of houses on a weekly basis, and I kind of have a little bit more insight than somebody that's been looking at a house in a new neighborhood for the first time. So it's the guidance that's provided by the realtors that I think gets overlooked sometimes, right? And undervalued, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree that realtors really have the pulse of what's happening in a community. So much so that I think our elected officials really, I know they rely on us, but I think they need to know. And that's why we send them Chris Umpier's great stats every time he prepares those emails and sends them out to all of our elected officials and stakeholders. We get very positive feedback from that because it's coming from us. We're telling them, look, this is what's happening in your community. These are the things you need to know to make informed decisions on policy and whatnot. So again, I think, it all kind of ties together. But I think really the biggest thing that our advocacy team and our group does is make sure that our elected officials know that we are a resource. As a matter of fact, I want to say it was last month. Yes, it was last month because we're in October, so it was in September. We hosted the Miami-Dade League of Cities here at our headquarters. It was a great event where we received, dozens of, elected officials from all over the county. And they have these monthly dinners, right? I think every county does. I think Broward
does it.
And I think, Palm Beach and so forth. And so it's good for us to have this great location where we can have these events and people can, again, see us personally and know that we're here to help them.
Yeah. And there's a phrase that I've been hearing recently, recently with the board about 2 years or so, and that phrase champions of the American dream has been such a pivotal statement from Florida Realtors to hearing it around our offices, just realizing that we are championing those individuals who want that home ownership. And it's more than just buying and selling. We're championing for the different policies that can make it more attainable for those looking for that dream.
So, Senator, I have a question for you. And I know that you're coming off of session and everything is kind of changing in our South Florida landscape, right? To be a little bit more specific and we're going through some I wouldn't even say struggles, some changes within the real estate market, right? That we have seen in the past, but has been expedited since COVID hit, right? It's been exacerbated tenfold, right? With migration coming into the South Florida area, well, in Florida in general, right? With the cost going up, right? Because of these migrations and these new professionals that have been coming here. And we hear all the time on the media that there are new opportunities for new businesses to come into the state, right? And that how we're so business friendly. What do you see the biggest pressure points in the housing market right now from a legislative standpoint?
Well, I'll talk a little bit since you just mentioned business, and then we'll talk about housing. So for businesses, the legislature just finally eliminated the business rent tax, which went into effect on October 1st. And so what does this mean? We are now the last state in the United States that actually still had a business rent tax, a tax on commercial leases. And that was putting us at somewhat of a competitive disadvantage because if you're a huge company that's looking to build, a headquarters, or you're looking to build an extension of your company, and you say, okay, well, Florida has this tax, and you do the math, and you figure out the number of locations you need, you might say, wait, maybe I'll go to Georgia. Or maybe I'll go to South Carolina. So I feel that, us having passed this and eliminated it basically was a tremendous step in the right direction. So I think as far as Florida businesses being concerned, we're doing the right things. One more thing on businesses. We just passed the elimination of squatters on commercial properties. What does this mean for our business owners? It means that if they have a squatter on their commercial property, all they have to do is call the sheriff's office, and the sheriff now has the authority to immediately remove that person. Whereas before, the laws were somewhat convoluted and were basically in favor of the squatter, which doesn't really make sense. But that's the way it was. We fixed it, so that I'm proud to have sponsored that bill. Now, on the housing front, we are doing a lot to help Floridians get into first-time home ownership through the Hometown Heroes program, which we actually funded this session to the tune of $50 million. I know it's not as much as we have funded in the past, but it is
that's
still...
a big number.
I think that would have gotten me coughing too. But anyway, it's a lot. And so, these are all things that help Floridians, with getting into their homes. Now, moving forward, I will tell you that we are looking at changes in our property tax structure here in Florida. I don't think we're going to eliminate or bring back a state income tax. We currently don't have a state income tax, just for those, I know everybody knows this, but I'm just going to say it again. So
you would be surprised, especially
sometimes people don't know everything. And, sometimes we just got to keep it simple, right? So if we were to, let's say, eliminate property taxes, like some people are saying out there, which I don't think will happen. We cannot eliminate property taxes. Why? Because that's how we fund our law enforcement. That's how we fund our firefighters and so many other critical services. Which those of you, and I know Larry has worked in local government, and Claudia Bailey has as well. This is how we keep our cities running, right? And our counties. So this is just impossible, right? So then what would a property tax change look like? I think we might be seeing something along the lines of increasing the homestead threshold from $250 to $500 or to $750. I don't know. Those are all things that are kind of being floated right now. But that needs to come soon because I think it will bring a lot of relief. As far as insurance, which I know also affects the cost of living, right? Several years ago, we passed some very significant policy changes in insurance, which we eliminated the assignment of benefits, which that was a tremendous fraud scheme that was happening. We also got rid of one-way attorney fees, which was also creating a situation where a lot of people were, with the lawsuits and frivolous lawsuits were being seen. So we've seen a tremendous reduction in that. All of these changes that we made in the laws in 2022 you're now seeing companies coming back to Florida. We had 17 new companies come back, insurance companies come to Florida. I personally, I'll give you an example, just me, my renewal was up last month, and I got a quote. I told my agent, I said, hey, can you shop around and see if we can get a better price? I got a much better price on my property insurance. So I'm, this is just me. I mean, I don't know. I know everyone's situation is different, but, I'm seeing some improvements.
So let me see if I can wrap my head around it, because that was a lot.
Yeah.
You went over, right?
Sorry, I just jumped around.
So let me see if I can just wrap my head around this, right? So let's start backwards. Let's start with the insurance first, because that's the last thing you spoke about. So with accessibility to more insurance companies, the thought process is that more competition will bring lower prices in.
Absolutely.
Right? Because now they're going to be fighting for the same consumer. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
And I think a lot of us are starting to see that now. I think where the problem comes in, and from a constituent standpoint, I think where the problem comes in is that I think that people really see that, okay, this has been changed. Then they wake up the next day and they're like, well, why hasn't it changed? Right? And
yeah.
we understand that there is a delay in the process.
It takes a few years.
But that's the thing. I don't think everybody understands that it takes a few years for it to run through the cycle, and for us to get new companies to come in, for them to set up, for them to now acquire new consumers. Because from a business perspective, I think that's the part that gets missing sometimes. Well, we have 17 new companies that just came into the state of Florida. Well, now they have to advertise. They have to now acquire those new clients. You have to wait for people's renewals to come up for them to go to these new places. So it's not a very quick process. And I kind of wanted to just point that out because, like I said, I've followed your career for a number of years, and I know how much good work that you've done to try to help your constituents in Miami-Dade, Broward County, and all throughout the state on the state legislative standpoint for making these changes come through. So that's the first thing. The second thing, let's go back to the property taxes, because you're absolutely correct. I did work in local government. Specifically, I worked for the county property appraiser, right? So this is right up my alley, and we've actually had the county appraiser on our podcast to really talk to him about what's going on. When we look at what is affecting homeowners currently, right? I think that it's a two-pronged conversation, and I think you touched on both of them. It's the insurance and it's the property taxes, right? Because I think that what this state has just gone through after COVID and the mass migration that came here, I think that it really did increase property values so much that now we're starting to see those effects, and it's a delayed effect, right? So you got to remember that was 2020, 2021, and now you're feeling it. So it's not, so when we try to have these conversations about fixes, I think we need to also remember that, this didn't happen overnight. So the solution's not going to come overnight. Yeah. So if this happened in 2021, it's now 2025, and now we're feeling the effects. It'll be probably 2027, 2028 until we see the relief. Is that make sense?
I think it'll be sooner than that. I think that's a little far out. One of the other things I didn't mention and I thought was worth mentioning was our effort to depopulate Citizens Insurance, our state-run insurance company. And the reason why we're doing that is because when Citizens was created, it was always meant to be the insurer of last resort. It was never meant to be the largest insurance company in the state of Florida. And so by making a concerted effort to depopulate citizens, that's also helping to bring competition back and more companies back. One of the things we're doing in that regard is if a quote comes in with less than 20% difference from citizens, you are required to take the other one, even if it's a little bit higher, but citizens will not take you. So that's good. You know, that's a good way of saying, okay, you can.
So this is a question that I've had, right? And maybe you can shed some light on it. And if you don't know the answer, that's fine too, because this is an insurance question.
Try me. I might know the answer.
Right? Is insurance premiums or cost regulated by the Department of Insurance?
Yes, it is. And so they approve rate increases. They approve those sorts of things. But within that framework, companies
have a variance.
Correct.
Got it. Because it still needs to be a company-run pricing.
Correct.
I got it.
Yeah.
Because that's something that's been bothering me for a long time. I'm like, I don't know who would I ask to get the answer to this.
Yeah.
And with that insurance,
But it's a good question.
You have several bills right now on the floor talking about insurance hikes, figuring out how to manage that insurance. So what can realtors really look forward to when it comes to connecting with their congressperson to really talk about what's beneficial for them when it comes to insurance?
Well, I think, as you said, the dialogue with the elected officials is super important.
Right.
Making sure that you have those relationships, that you have access. Miami Realtors advocacy, department through Danielle Blake and our professionals is really the best way to have those relationships. As far as, access, we have great affiliates as well that come to our events and that are, partners of the association. That also are in the insurance market. And I would say, those are a great place to start. But we really try to do as much as we can for our members to give them access to all kinds of resources, not just on the advocacy side, but also on the services and company side.
Nice. Perfect. So how much of that outcome from the upcoming election should our realtors expect to affect real estate? So we know we have the 2026 election.
I think we need to be very vigilant of the candidates. People tend to focus on like the federal candidates, the president, Congress and stuff. I think you have to look at all levels of government.
Right.
You need to look at, your judicial candidates. You need to look at your school board, all kinds of, and look at their track record if you're able to obtain it. And again, going back to our advocacy department, we do screen our candidates. If you are a major investor for RPAC, you do get invited to candidate screenings. As a matter of fact, this week we screened the City of Miami Beach elections, which is a big municipality. We've screened City of Homestead this cycle, Hialeah, and City of Miami. Those are the big four municipalities that are having elections now. I know Broward does theirs in March, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be coming up that'll be coming up in a few months. And we do partake in those candidate screenings with the other board that's in Broward. So we collaborate on that. And, I think it's important to again, to establish the relationships, not at the candidate screening, but after the screening and once the candidates are selected, go and walk door to door with them.
Right.
Go spend time with them. Go show them that you are, again, not just about the buying and the selling, but you also want to help and give back and be a resource to those people that once they're in office.
I think you touch on a really good point, and that people tend to focus in on the federal elections so much more. And I think that there's a little bit of a disconnect, and they don't have the realization to know that, honestly, you were a city commissioner. Those elections have more of an impact on your day-to-day life. Your city commissioner, your mayors, your local councilman, your school board, all that stuff has the impact on what you see on a day-to-day versus... And I'm not diminishing the federal elections because it's very important.
And they all have their role, right? And I think federal is important and affects different types of policy. But so much of what we do in our industry is really at the state level. And those are the ones that we need to really keep an eye on. I'm excited that we have a gubernatorial election next year. And I know we've already hosted Congressman Byron Donalds here, and we've participated in some events he's had in Broward County. So I think, I think he's looking like the front runner at the moment, but it's a little bit early to kind of call it out. But I do think all the candidates are worthy of our consideration and need to be looked at, and what their policies are on insurance and other things that affect our
The one
business.
thing I've learned in being a part of this now is everything changes like that.
It's very quick. Yes, you have to pivot very quickly. Yes,
Everything changes.
That's right.
So let me ask you this. Assuming there's a shift in leadership, right, and things change, right, just in a general sense. We're not saying one side or another, just in general, right? How does that affect affordability, funding, all these things that you have been, because I've actually seen your record and I know how much you've actually gotten done in state legislation, right? It's super impressive. And if you haven't done your research, please go and do it, because you are probably one of the most impactful but quietest ones that I've ever seen. Like,
Super
you're not
quiet.
always on the front run, but you've been.
I don't talk that
super,
much.
Yeah,
in
you've been
committees,
your work speak for
super
you.
impactful.
Yeah.
So how do you, somebody that's been impactful like that? How does change of leadership, change of like elections, really have an impact on what you're doing or what you're trying to accomplish overall?
Well, I think, changes in leadership, changes in elected officials, they do have their consequences or their benefits, I guess. We've seen a lot of this here locally with some municipalities. But I think as an organization, our job is to, no matter who's in office, no matter who's running the show, we have to make sure that we keep the peace and get along with whoever's there, right? Because even though we may have our personal preferences, going into it, like, oh, I want this person to win or that person to win, at the end of the day, whoever ends up winning is going to have to be our friend,
Right.
and not our enemy.
Well,
and so that's not easy for a lot of people. They're like, oh, but this person, they said this and that, and I'm like, that's how elections are. Elections are dirty. Politics is dirty, and you just have to turn the page and say, okay, new day. We're gonna be friends, and we're gonna be advocates. We are advocating for our Broward-MIAMI and for our for all of our members, really, to have the best shot in whatever it is that we're advocating for. So
I've gotten a chance over my time as president, and even before that, I've gotten a chance to really sit down and talk to a lot of different politicians. And I'm going to tell you, Jalina, you may not have been there with us on some of these, but I'm going to tell you, after speaking with everybody, I think that's been the most impressive thing. Because when you bring up Senator Rodriguez to anybody, left or right, it's the same conversation. The party line doesn't even matter at that point.
Yeah.
It's so. Here's my question for you: how did that come about? Because not everybody's like that.
No, not everyone's like that. And I get invited, obviously, as a Republican to a lot of Republican events, and I get invited to this Christian Family Coalition, which is not partisan, but I think it's most. I don't know. I think a lot of the people that go are Republican, but I tell people the same thing over and over again. I say, look, it's not about red or blue. You're American. You are America first. This is where we live. This is our country. No, it doesn't matter where you're from. My parents are Cuban. Others are. My husband's Colombian. We all have our backgrounds. But when we're here, and this is our country. I'm sorry to going a little on the patriotic field here. That's what we have to always remember, is that you put your colors aside, and you have to. In this case, our color is Miami Realtors, Broward-MIAMI Realtors. This is who we represent. It's not about. And when I'm legislating, when I'm in Tallahassee, I put my colors aside and I say, what's good public policy for Florida? What will make our state a better place? Not just for my district, my constituents. It has to be for all of the constituents, the whole state, really. Everything we do in Florida in the legislature has to be good for everybody. It can't just be good for some of the people. It has to be good. So always think in terms of what's good for all the people. And that's how I kind of, conclude my thoughts.
How do you balance that? Because Florida is so diverse, right? When you take northern Florida compared to South Florida, compared to middle Florida, it's so different.
Diverse, yes.
And with many Floridians, especially feeling now, especially here in South Florida, where they feel it challenging to really buy a home for the first time.
Yeah.
Right? How do you, as a legislator, balance all of that?
I think the main thing when you're up there, representing your district and you're advocating for certain things to happen, whether it's an appropriation or a bill, you have to be very tough, very competitive, because not every bill gets heard, not every appropriation gets funded.
Right.
So whatever your style is, mine is very under the radar, but I have very strong relationships with the key decision makers that help fund these things or hear the bills. The rules chair. You have to know who are the people that are going to move the bills, right, or move the appropriations. And that's all you have to. It's a very relationship based business. Yeah. Like I think most businesses are. I think real estate is like that too, and politics is very relationship based. Yeah. So what I tell people who are like maybe starting in politics is, don't underestimate the power of being in local government or being, on a board, on a city board or on a community board. Those are really good places to build relationships. And don't think, oh, well, this person, she's just the clerk or she's just this or you never know where that person's going to be next. So every single person you encounter, you have to treat them the same way. I've met Donald Trump multiple times, super down to earth. He treats everybody the same. Unless you're then he treats you like, but no, I mean, being kind and being, that way with everyone, it has to be something that comes naturally.
Right.
And you have to I don't know how else to say it, but be nice to everybody. Don't think, just because someone has a certain job today, tomorrow they could have a different job.
The business of the people.
Yeah, your business is to take care of everybody, regardless of their title.
Exactly.
I heard years ago, it takes more energy to frown than to smile.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Mm-hmm. And being nice doesn't cost anything.
It doesn't.
Just be nice. Mm-hmm. You'll be surprised. What you put out there comes back. And sometimes you have to be stern, and sometimes you have to, say things that are uncomfortable or unpleasant or whatever. But, I think when you say things with a good heart and, people know you have a good heart and that it's not coming from a bad place, it's taken in a good way, right? So you can't it's not about being nice all the time. It's about communicating in a way that people know where you're coming from and that the message is really just the message, not the messenger.
Right.
So let's bring this back a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. And we talked a little bit about how you're making decisions with obviously your constituents in mind, right? But with a broader perspective on the state. And we kind of brought up to you that, especially for the first-time homebuyers, and you said that there's things that are going through legislation right now to try to help those people, right?
Absolutely.
Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, people who have never owned a home, through the Hometown Heroes program. And actually, it had a different name before. I think it was called the Sadowski. Was it the Sadowski money?
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, and so now, because of COVID, which I know it feels like it was yesterday, but it was 5 years ago.
It's been 5 years.
It's been 5 years. Yes,
that's crazy.
And so in 2020, or maybe it was 2021 because it was the 2020 session had already finished when COVID started. We decided to prioritize people who were frontline workers, right? Our teachers, our nurses, our firefighters, our law enforcement officers. Those people, it was a profession-based program, right? So if you had a certain profession, you qualified for Hometown Heroes. And the funding amount, the pot of money was much bigger during that time. Again, to encourage home ownership, right? To break the cycle of renting and not, building equity. So the program has evolved. It became a program that was based on income, not on profession, right? even though it kept the name Hometown Heroes. But and so now we've reverted back to the profession based, not the income based. So that's a little something people should know.
400 different professions. Like that list is vast. It's not a very small.
It's not
list.
a limited pool. No.
Yeah, I mean, you at the legislative level that have made the changes to it, they've included a lot. The one constant that I have seen with that Hometown Heroes is going back to the name, right? Is really that has to be a profession that helps with the community. Nurses, doctors, firefighters,
first responders
teachers,
of any kind.
Yeah. But even the janitor at the school who contributes their time, that they still qualify as long as you're an employee of the school board, from my understanding. And I think that really does seed the opportunity for new people to actually get into the housing market, like you said, helping people realize the American dream, right? And I think that is a very big part of the American dream, is to actually have home ownership. Because statistically, when you look at it, your wealth grows a lot faster once you've bought into that.
And build equity, yeah. Absolutely.
Right. For sure. So what are other practical steps could the legislature work on right now for those individuals looking for home ownership? I know there's information or bills on the floor right now regarding property taxes, homestead, insurance. What practical steps are being taken to advocate for that?
Well, I'll share one that we haven't discussed yet, which it doesn't really have to do with getting into home ownership, but to help people maintain home ownership and harden their properties, which is the My Safe Florida Home program, which gives Floridians up to $10,000 in assistance if they have a single family home. So that's a big deal, right? If you need to put a new roof, or if you need to put in impact windows, or if you need to put in an impact garage door or impact doors, that really does go a long way to help someone.
And that'll help with insurance costs.
Correct.
Too, right?
That does help with their insurance costs. So that does lower their overall cost, their month to month, and that's not a bad thing. So
listen, and everything that you said is wonderful, right? And I think people sometimes that message gets lost because if I've saved $10 here, $20 there, $30 here, it all adds up to a good amount of money. And I kind of see where you're going with that on the legislative side, where look, we can't cut insurance rates in half because then we won't have any insurance companies, right? But I can have them save $300 here and $200 here, and maybe with the property taxes, they'll save another $500 here. And before you know it, you're saving $1,000 a month.
And actually, when I was the chair of the Finance and Tax Committee, and I was responsible for the state's tax package, we included a provision to give Floridians 2 years without paying taxes on impact windows. So that was actually very well received, and a lot of people, bought their impact windows and didn't have to pay taxes for 2 years. So, we're always looking for creative ways to give money back to Floridians so that they keep money in their pockets and not have to spend it unnecessarily.
So we know that this video is out there. We're going to have this podcast. We're going to share it out with everybody. But for those who don't have access to this, or those who are not sure where to start, what's the best place to go to understand that this opportunity is available, that these changes are in the making?
Well, the Florida Housing Finance Corporation is a good place for people to go who are seeing this for the first time and are hearing about these programs for the first time. Florida Housing Finance Corporation is the state agency that administers the Hometown Heroes program. Right. So when someone is trying to figure out, okay, how does this work? How do I do this? That's where they would go. I know that we're doing Broward-MIAMI, but Miami-Dade County does offer some housing programs assistance, as well as City of Miami Beach. I'm assuming Broward offers
the municipalities in Broward, they usually have some sort of program that will help with that as well.
Yeah.
So depending on the municipality you're looking at.
Yeah. So all of that, people would have to go to the individual, municipal website, right, to see, where they're looking to buy. I'm sure their realtor can help them, right? That's the idea. We want to make sure our realtors have that information so that their clients are able to get the funding they need to purchase their properties.
So Senator, we're going to wrap up on, and I think we'll wrap up on this note. What can the realtors, the homeowners, your constituents, state of Florida residents, Floridians, what can we all expect going into next year, and because a lot of the things that you've said to us is great for the Floridians that live here currently.
Right.
As a real estate professional, I'm looking at it like it's making Florida more attractive.
Yes.
So all these things that we're doing to help our Floridians residents are now making Florida more attractive. Right. So what happens when we go through our next boom cycle?
Well, I think it's kind of like a push and pull, right? Because as you mentioned, migration earlier, there have been some fluctuations in immigration. I'll give you an example. Last school year, we had about 13 or 14,000 kids that basically came out of nowhere, right? And now those children are not there anymore, right? So we hired all these new teachers, all these new people. So, they're coming, but then they're also going, right? So there's a lot of stuff happening right now. And some people that we're tracking, some we are not able to track, right? But I think the main idea is, yes, we want to attract companies to come to Florida, to your point. We want to make Florida an attractive place for people to invest in. But at the same time, the quality of life for current Floridians and our children, right? Because we, some of us have children, some don't. But you know what? I'm thinking about my kids, and I want them to be able to afford and want to live in Florida and not move to another state, whenever they go to college and so forth. So it's a push and pull, right? It's hard to maintain this equilibrium, but we're trying our best to make sure we attract the right people and keep our people here happy and for multiple generations.
Because I'm telling you right now, the consensus out there is don't make it too attractive to everybody.
I know,
because we can't stop the people that are moving here. It's been impressive what you guys have done.
It's been a good problem to have in a way, because the market, the real estate market has done very well, historically here in Florida and especially in South Florida. But you're right. I think, at some point, we are a peninsula, right? So at some point we won't have any more land.
Are we gonna build islands off the coast? Like,
I don't know, like Dubai. I don't know if that's a good idea. The hurricane's coming, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I do see a lot of possible gentrification of neighborhoods because of our, the fact that we are landlocked, right? We really can't build much more except down in Homestead where I live. But I think you will be seeing a lot of older neighborhoods being bought and just either knocked down or remodeled, a lot of homes, older homes being renovated. Yeah.
Which, it sometimes gets a bad rap, but I think progress also is a good thing. Changing, making things new, updated. It's not always a bad thing. Now, how it's handled, that may be something bad or something good, depending on who you're talking about. But I think with that, I think we got all of our information that we needed, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and thank you for having me. And I look forward to being invited back at some point.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can talk after session about what happened.
Absolutely. I would love to do that.
Okay. I would love that for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us,
thank you,
Senator. And those of you who are watching, make sure that you subscribe. You share this with fellow realtors, because we want to make sure that you are equipped to serve your clients in the best way possible. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Miami Association of Realtors official podcast channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and please rate and review us. Until the next time.